In this video, we're going to show you how to change its spark plugs in this 2015 Jeep Patriot with a 2.4 liter. So the first step under the hood here is we're going to take and have to pull off this engine cover. This engine cover is held on by a couple of pins that are friction fit. So all you got to do is just pull up and this will come apart. You'll see on the corners here, you'll see the pins where they go. We can just set that off to the side and you can see relative here where those pins go. Our next step, these are our coil packs. The coil packs are what cause the spark to happen. There's these gray connectors on there with a red clip that need to be removed. In order to do this, what we have to do is take a flat blade screwdriver. We're going to carefully put it in between the gray and the red here. And we're just going to kind of wiggle it back and forth until it pops that. Once the red clip is back, we're going to go ahead. We're going to push down here with our thumb and pull back, and that'll disconnect the wiring. So we'll put the screwdriver in between here, twist, pop. Now the wiring harness is set up to be a single length, so you can go through, we can go ahead and we can just pop all these out right now. We can even just take and push the wiring harness aside. It's one length. Now we have access to our coils. Next thing we do is we remove these coils. It's a T30 Torx. So we're gonna go ahead, take those off. Now make sure we don't lose these bolts, so put these off to the side somewhere safe. Now what we gotta do is grab the coil. We can just pull straight out and it comes out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and put the coils up here on the cowl. I'm gonna pull them out and put them in number order. That way I'm not getting them screwed up. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, I'm going to take a spark plug socket. This is a deep spark plug socket, but you know, there's typical regular spark plug sockets and extension. We're going to go ahead and lightly put it down inside there. And we're going to loosen those up. Now this part I'm going to do one at a time. I'm going to pull each plug out and replace it. That way I don't risk dropping something inside there. So here's the plug out of the engine. These plugs are a 30,000 mile copper core spark plug. They're not platinum, iridium, any of that stuff. They're the old basic copper plugs. That's what Chrysler calls for in these things, in these 2.4s. So these need to be replaced every 30,000 miles. The owner of this car is reporting of a like jerkiness, like misfiring kind of situation, and what it is these spark plugs. This car's got 46,000 on it. It's about 16,000 past its spark plugs. Now here's our new spark plug for comparison. The OEM spark plugs, the new spark plugs, are NGK spark plugs. We are putting in NGK plugs, and it's always good to verify the part numbers, make sure you got the right stuff, so we got the right plugs. The only other thing we got to verify is the gap. The gap is the space between the electrode and the ground strap here. So we're going to go over the computer, we're going to check that out, and we'll gap it and we'll put the new plug in. Our specification here, so our spec is telling us our 2 liter or 2.4 liter, our spark plug number, which is that NGK plug number, and our gap should be 43 thousandths of an inch. One other thing we want to check before we go any further, we want to check the torque on the spark plugs. So spark plugs should be torqued down to 27 newton meters or 20 foot-pounds. And then the bolts for the coil that we pulled out, those there should be set to 9 newton meters or 79.5 inch-pounds. So we'll have to get our torque wrenches ready for that. So to make this video a little more user-friendly for the end user, I'm just using a regular old spark plug gauge. You can go to any auto parts store and buy these things. They're really cheap. They do a good job. So one side is very thin, the other side is very thick, and then in the middle there's numbers here that correlate to what it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our old spark plug in here, and we'll spin this around till it stops. And getting our reading here, we're at about 55 thousandths of an inch when we should be at 43 thousandths. My new plug, I'm going to put this on there and go. And this one out of the box is ready to go. Now, some people will prefer to they'll tell you to put anti-seize on the threads here. That's a big no-no, and especially in these newer spark plugs. It has this silver coating on here. That's the anti-seize coating that's already built in these spark plugs already in the coating here. So don't put anything extra in there. Also, when you put any kind of lubricant on here, it actually will change the torque specs on here as you're torquing it down. So you always want to just make sure you install the spark plug the way the manufacturer recommends, which in this case is dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the spark plug into my socket. I'm gonna very carefully set it down inside there. Don't drop in there. You can break the plug or hit the gap. We're gonna tighten that down. And we're gonna grab our torque wrench and torque it down. So with our torque wrench set to 20 foot-pounds, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna listen for the click. Okay. Checking again, click, and we're good. We'll pull our spark plug socket out. Now we got to do the other three. Now when doing this, you always want to make sure you torque it down. The manufacturer comes up with these torque specs for a reason, and the last thing you want to do is over tighten the spark plug and break it down inside there, because it is a giant pain to fix. So a torque wrench is a nice investment. This is a Craftsman one I got from Lowe's. They're this newer distributor of Craftsman now that they're owned by Black & Decker or Stanley, or one of the two, or both. But this was like a $40, $50 torque wrench. It's not a bad torque wrench. It's easy to read. It's good to use. So it's definitely good to pick up a quality torque wrench, or rent one from the auto parts store to make sure the job's done correctly. Now that we got the new spark plugs in, we gotta go ahead and put the coils back in. So I'll just grab those, and we'll put those back in order. Then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put the bolts back in. These bolts, remember, have a 79 inch-pound torque rating on them. I know some people will just be like, oh, whatever, just tighten them down. That's not how I do stuff. If you want to do that in your own car, you're more than welcome to. But when I'm dealing with other people's cars, or even my own cars, the manufacturer comes up with these torque specs for a reason. They don't just do this because they feel like making up some crazy stuff and making us do a little extra work. Especially this valve cover is plastic. It has a threaded insert that goes into the valve cover, and so if you over tighten this, you can damage that valve cover, and then you're going to be replacing this whole valve cover, which probably is not a cheap thing to do. So 79 inch-pounds on the torque. So we're going to go ahead. Now once our torque is done, we can go through and we can just plug our wire harness back in. So we're going to start with the shortest one on number 4, and then we can go ahead and work our way forward here. Now after the wire harness all plugged in, we got to go through and push these red clips back into place. That locks this wire harness in so it can't come out. So one of the last steps we gotta do is verify all our tools are out of the way. We're all cleaned up. We can take our cover, we can put it back on. We'll go in the corners there and hit that down. Close the hood, start the car up, make sure it runs good, and you're good to go. So hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, smash it thumbs down twice. Show me how much you hated it, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.